Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. All our office admins, welcome, and any managers have joined us as well. We're glad you're on the call this morning and the webinar.
Been on the phone for a while.
Mike Sitko, our national account manager with Zip, is going to be leading this morning's webinar, and our very own Marianne Bernosky is going to be sharing some thoughts and best practices that she is enacting and doing in the Martinsville office. Mike, Marianne, and I had a call yesterday, so because many of you have submitted questions in advance, we've gone through all your questions, and we'll be answering those this morning. If there are more questions that we have as we go on, either use your chat function or raise your hand and jump on.
This is just how I have to do it.
We'd like to keep the phone lines open, but that means that you'll either have to have your phone or your computer on mute when you're not asking a question, because we just heard somebody some background noise from somebody else. So if we'd like to leave it open, then it'll be easier for people to ask questions, and we do want to have an interactive session this morning. So let me turn it over to Mike, and we'll get started. Thanks, all.
Thank you, Steve. Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone's having a wonderful day. So as Steve had mentioned, we will be running this webinar to kind of showcase a lot of the new features and functionality that we built into the solution. A little while back, give you a little backstory here. We had worked with Steve on some enhancements, which we really do take and listen to our users and our user groups. And so what we've done here with the new application is built in automation. And you'll see here during this presentation how the automation is intended to streamline the processes throughout your office, not asking the agent to do any additional work besides filling in a placeholder and then letting the system do the work behind the scenes to get you set up and notified. But we've also now have built in the ability to digest notifications. I know that was a pain point for a majority of you because of the amount of notifications that were being received. So we've now given you the ability to set your profile settings how you want and how often you want to receive those notifications. So those are a lot of the key points that we're going to be showcasing here today, along with answering all of your questions. So we're going to run through a short presentation. It shouldn't take too long to cover, the automation piece. And then we'll go into the OA manager questions and, get those answered for you as well, and along with any additional questions that we'll be covering here today as well. Okay. So again, as Steve mentioned, we'd like to keep these lines open. So if you have questions, feel free to unmute your line, ask the question so we can get them answered. Or feel free to utilize the chat functionality as well. Okay. So again, thank you all for your time, and we're just going to go ahead and get right into this here. So as you know, there's different roles within the company account. So as Steve is, he's a broker admin in the account. So when he comes in, he has the oversight, the insight to everything that's kind of going on across the entire brokerage. Okay. So what he has the ability to do under the admin section is we have a broker settings. What we'll be turning on here soon, he's going to be adjusting some permission settings, notifications, but here is really the main point in which we're talking about here is our automation. So what we're going to be turning on is the ability to automatically mark a document for review after filling a placeholder. So this is what's going to be turning on, okay? Now he can also control this at an office level as well. But if he turns it on corporate, it'll be set corporate-wide across all offices. When he does turn this on, one of the key areas that you're going to want to make sure you go to and adjust is your notifications under your profile settings. This is really a key point. It's a crucial part because we want you to receive the notifications in a manner that makes sense for you, not every single time an agent fills a placeholder. So in your profile settings, you'll be going to clicking on the drop down, going to click on the view profile option. And here, this is where you can manage and adjust all your profile settings. You'll have an area called notification settings. So you'll simply be going to this area, and then you're going to be looking at the area that says broker approval notification settings. You're going to see an option here called digest approval. And essentially, again, what this is doing, it's going to take the notifications that your agents would be sending to you and then digest it and then send it to you when you want to receive them, okay? So the moment you turn it on, you're going to see that it gives you an option. The default is every 6 hours. Now you can choose to receive it once daily, twice daily, every 6 hours, or every hour, okay? So that's how you can determine how often you're going to be receiving those notifications. You can also see, you can choose who you want to receive notifications from if that's important. So you have the ability to make that adjustment if you need to. But your notification settings is really a key factor here once that automation is turned on. Okay, so I want to make that clear because, again, we don't want you receiving notifications every single time an agent fills a placeholder. And to control that, you have to turn this on. Okay? So now let's go ahead and take a look at what will happen once this has been set up. So as you know today within your templates, you have placeholders in which agents are going to fill, required, and there's some standardized due dates. Okay, this is where the agents turn their documents in. So either by emailing in, faxing in, uploading from a computer, or bringing in from one of our partnered solutions. So this is still the key driving factor, all right? So let's go into an agent account and just quickly go through that process of how they interact with the placeholders. So when an agent comes in to a transaction or into their account and they're ready to start a file, what they're doing today is, typically clicking on the new here, or from their dashboard, clicking on create a new transaction from here as well, okay? And then they go ahead and select what type of transaction they're creating. So let's just say it's a new purchase today. And we're going to go ahead and type in a transactional name. And we are continuing to work with Garden State and some of the other MLSs to build in the MLS Connect service, as we still know that it is an important piece that you'd like to have available for some, but not all. But we are getting close to hopefully having this available to everyone within your company. We're going to go ahead and utilize this just so we pull some data over into my transaction to have some important data so it looks more real in our scenario here. So we're going to go ahead and just plug in the MLS number. We're going to reach out and find this property on the MLS. We're going to go ahead and use this listing. You're seeing it pulling the property address here. We're going to select residential. Auto-applied templates are being auto-applied here, either at an office or a corporate level. As you know, agents can also create their own personal templates with their own contact information. That way they don't have to fill that data out. We'll just go ahead and simply name our transaction. So clicking on Save. It will go ahead and pull the data over. You'll also notice now that in our recent update, we've added in additional parties into your options on the left-hand side. So this way, based upon the transaction type, you're able to see those parties here, and it also allows for quick access to parties when you click on it. It allows you to actually add a party directly from here as well. It used to take you to another screen, so we've actually reduced clicks in this process, okay? The purchase summary, we're just going to plug in some data.
So while Mike does that, just for everybody to know, Monmouth is live with MLS Connect, as is Trend. The latest update I asked from Chris Brown is that GSMLS Legal Counsel has been working with legal counsel at Zip, and I believe they're getting close. I know the Monmouth County agents love MLS Connect. We've had many agents sign up for the program because it's a big time saver. So we'll keep you posted.
Absolutely. Thank you. So we have purchase summary and the listing summary coming on over. And then, as you can see, once that data is filled, it does automatically set up the due date reminders for the agent on the required placeholders. Okay. Then again, also we'll fill a checklist again with important transactional dates along with the due dates that are being required to turn in for this transaction. Okay. And obviously our viewing types are the same, calendars with what you'll see here from our calendar view, the checklist view, and the board view. So those are very easy to work with, based upon how the agent wants to work. But again, with the automation, we've really, again, tried to streamline this entire process, especially when an agent is turning in a document, all right? So as you know, back in from our summary tab on the right-hand side, we have the ability to bring in a document. Now, you can always bring in a document from Dropbox, Google Drive, Box, or OneDrive. You can browse for a document directly off the computer. So we have that option as well. So I'm just going to go ahead and bring in a document, PDF. So it's an also real easy way to bring in a document. We also have the ability to email documents to a transaction. So these are some of just the recap options. You can email it utilizing this email address here. Anything attached to the email will go ahead and be brought into the transaction. And then we still offer the ability to fax and or scan. This is a recent update. Again, this is something we worked with Berkshire on to make some adjustments to this. We actually ended up switching service providers for this solution. So we hope that you find this to be a lot more stable as we switch our vendors. So it's more of a barcode still at the top and the bottom, the number to send it to, and where to scan it in as well, which is actually a new something that we recently adjusted on our end as well. But we still offer the ability to fax in or scan into the application. Okay. And then our signing functionality. So again, my focus today is to really focus on, again, how the agent's going to fill the placeholder and showcase what's happening behind the scenes for you. So I'm not going to go through the signing as that's what your agents are doing today. They're going out getting documents signed one way or another in person through e-sign and having to bring them in multiple capacities. The signed documents do come back into the transaction automatically, so the agent can then go ahead and move the document around into the corresponding placeholder. So let's go ahead and work on that part. So when you're on the documents and the agents start getting ready to start uploading their documents into the transaction to put into those placeholders. So I'm going to go ahead and bring in another document. And it's going to be, let's go ahead and just do PDF here. So we're uploading this in. So now the agent has brought in some documents. Maybe they've gone in or completely signed, all ready for the admin to review. So now they need to start getting it into those placeholders. This document, this PDF that I just uploaded, is a multi-page document. So maybe some of these pages I need to pull out because it's actually a different document. So we'll go ahead and click on Split. And we're going to go ahead and say these two. And we'll just say they are an addendum. And we'll save it. You can also see that we can attach it to a task if we wanted to, but we're just going to go ahead and save it into the transaction. So there we have it. So we have 3 PDFs in here. So I'm going to go over the ways that an agent can start applying them to the placeholders that we have inside this transaction, okay? First option is the agent could simply drag and drop into the placeholder and move it into the corresponding placeholder in which it's required. Okay, let's go ahead and do that. Move this one here. Now you're going to see some automation taking place. The document has been successfully flagged, it's been filled, and now the needs approval option has been automated. On the checklist, it also flags it for review and puts the status for this into ready for review. Okay, so we're no longer requiring your agents to have to do any additional work for the documents that they're turning in. All they're doing is filling a placeholder either from a checklist or from the Documents tab. All right, so that's a real simple process. We've also built in a functionality now. If I go ahead and click on the placeholder in itself, you can see now that we give the agent the option to fill with an existing document within the transaction, or still pull in from any one of our sources, or browse the document in from the computer. So actually, I know that maybe this was a signed document that I had completed through an e-sign process. All the parties have signed. I click on Fill with Existing. We're just going to go ahead and click on that document there, and then attach it to the placeholder that way. So there we have our two documents that have been placed into the placeholders, been flagged for review. So what's happening now, based upon your digest options, you'll receive a notification either within an hour, every 6 hours, once daily, or twice daily. Okay? So you're not going to be emailed every single time an agent fills a placeholder. You'll be notified, how you have your notification settings set. So back in Location Admin Account, you'll go ahead and see what we have the option to do. So you'll be emailed once you're emailed. You're also going to see the recent activity. Here you have your documents to approve. Okay, so they're coming in for this transaction. These are the two documents that you're being asked to review. And all you have to do now is simply go ahead and click on it. Review the document. Once you approve it, agent will be notified. Then back in the transaction, let's go ahead and take a look at that. We'll go back into this Beach Creek here because these are live links. And take you, and we can go right to the checklist. You can see that it's been completed and approved. So now you don't even have to go in to complete the status of the task and or the document. We've automated that entire process as well. So we hope with this automation that your tasks are going to be cleaner. Your document approval process is going to be way more streamlined. It's going to require a lot less work for the agent. Okay. And with the digest approval options, you're going to see that you're going to receive a lot less notifications because of us now holding the emails and then just sending you one email based upon your settings. Okay. So so this is a lot of work that we built in to help, streamline your processes and make it a lot easier for everyone to utilize. Okay. Does anyone have any questions on that process or the automation that we built into the solution?
Either jump in, unmute your phone or your computer, or just do it on chat, and I'll read the question for everybody.
Yes.
While anybody's doing that, you should know that this automation process was the work of a focus group and some conferences that I was fortunately involved in as well with Mike and some of the head of the design team out in California, and our whole goal was to reduce as best as we can
the amount of is 4140.
Try to reduce as best as we can the amount of approval notifications that people are receiving, and also help streamline to each one of you so you know what needs to be approved. Any other questions, comments on what Mike showed you so far?
Steve, question. This is Janet in Livingston.
Okay.
Is there a way to know at this point what time those, let's say I choose once a day notification, what time of day they'll be sent?
Mike, did you hear? Will they know what time the notification has been requested? If they have it set for, say, every 2 hours, we'll say at 9:35 a.m. a notification was sent in.
That's a great question. I will get you the exact answer. Here's my understanding. If an agent within the hour between 9 and 11 starts to request, or say between 10 and 11, they start to request approvals. Those approvals to you will be sent to you 2 hours later. So from 11, so you'll receive them at 1. Okay. But I will go ahead and get an exact answer on that. If it's once daily, our process in the past would be to send an email I think it's like 6 o'clock in the morning, so that when you came in, you'd have that email in your inbox. But I will validate the time frames for you. So I will get that answer to Steve and Marianne, and then let them give you the exact answer. But that is a great question, but I'll get you the exact answer. How it works behind.
Any other questions so far before we go to some the questions you sent in advance, and then we'll address those. Okay, Mike, maybe be easiest at this point. Is anything else you want to cover? Should I start going through our questions? I'll read the question, then we'll hand off who's going to be answering those.
Yeah, nothing. We'll go through that.
All right, so first question we have is, how do you add a second agent as listing agent and or buyer's agent so they appear with their agent license number, phone contact, and appropriate places on the contract? That is not yet an option. You can, some people have assigned a separate contact with, say, once a team or someone who does a transaction together, where they'll fill out a contact, Steve, Janet / Janet D'Elia, or someone such as that. But Zip is aware of it. It's not yet an option, and it's on the future to-do list as maybe something for a future enhancement.
Yes, and I'll just add to that. It is definitely one of our top features that we'll be looking to be adding into the application here, to allow an agent to invite another agent into just a single transaction and let them work in their capacity with emailing and adding documents, editing a transaction. So really giving them the complete insight. So that is definitely on our radar. We are aware of it, because currently the only options you have is to either give an agent full access to your transactions, let them work on your behalf, or to collaborate with them. But then at that moment, you're a bit limited. So we are aware it is a feature that we will be working on and be releasing at a future date.
Someone sent in a question: is one of our OAs going to answer questions at this session? Well, we're lucky to have Marianne on this call and webinar. Mary, can you just share any comments you have, since you're doing the job that everybody else on this call is doing, and what are you finding is some of your best practices?
Hi, everyone. I'm finding, can you hear me?
Yep.
We can.
Okay. I'm finding that I mentioned to Steve yesterday, and it may not apply to every office, but the first thing that I would do in the morning, just to see what listings have come in from the day before or what properties have gone under contract, I'll go into the hot sheets in the multiple listing. My case, most of ours are in Garden State, but I'm sure everyone has access to the different boards or the different MLSs where you can go in and find what is active and what is under contract. That's the first thing that I do. I print out those MLS sheets, and then I go into Zip and I see whether the agent has actually created the transaction and added all the docs that are necessary. If they have not, then I would email them and say, hey, I see there's a new listing, you need to upload your docs. I keep a separate copy of that MLS sheet in a folder, and I follow up with it. And it's a constant following up, but eventually they they do what they need to do, because every listing, as we know, needs a listing input form, and then every sale obviously needs a sales input form. So it's a constant following up. It's a little bit harder when it's not our listing that goes under contract and it's a sale. But even then, the agents are getting better and better about notifying me. And sometimes what I'll do is I'll check the box on the right where it says recent activity, and I kind of see somebody worked on something. I'll click in it and see whether they've done what they needed to do, and then I'll email them if they haven't filled out the sales input form. So that's my way of kind of keeping track of what comes in that's new or under contract.
Mayor, interesting. I see on chat line, West Essex says, Michelle, we're doing the exact same thing. It definitely helps her keep a handle on things. So thanks for sharing. One of the things you're doing on the listing side. How about on transactional side, Marion? Any tips you can share? How you're getting your agents to use Zip up front, submitting their sale contract input form, and making sure they get their documents in the placeholders.
I just think it's just they're all getting used to doing it now, and they're seeing how easy it is once they create it right from the beginning and they create their parties. Some of the people that don't have as many transactions, aren't as familiar, but the more they do it, the more they realize that right from the beginning, if they create it, everything is right there. And so they're getting very good at even communicating with me that they've put something in there. And then, of course, we have the notifications too with the tasks, the transactions to approve. And but everyone seems to be, the more that they're using it, the more happy they are with it and getting the information forwarded to me.
Well, thanks, Mayor. And, you've heard it from our top GCI office in the company. So that means Marion's a busy person with a lot of Zip transactions, and we appreciate everything you're doing. So let me continue down, if it's okay, with some of the questions, and then feel free to either shout out, chat, or jump in and ask Marianne, Mike, or I any other questions that you might have. So question number 3 I see on our advanced list. How do you add an executor of an estate to a listing or contract? I'm going to give that to Mike.
Yes, thank you. So this is really something that we have to take a look at, and we need to be working with the associations to really get a better understanding of how they want to handle these types of situations. We are bound to design the forms exactly how an association sends it to us, okay? And with that in mind, we also have to keep automation with pre-tags in place as well. So we either can work with the association to how they would like to handle this situation, because what happens in this is that you have an executor on the contract, but then you have a person who is signing that's not that person, or signed on behalf of. So for us to automate it, we wouldn't be able to. So then you'd be requiring to plug in names on the listing contract, and then also filling out the signers separately, to where now, when you have a normal, buyer and seller, like, Sally Smith and James Smith, that data auto-populates to the signature tag lines so that we can pre-tag those documents for you, okay? So right now, this is not something, this is a topic that we'll ask to the association. Maybe we look at adding another form to handle that situation to where they're not pre-tagged, and it gives you a bit more flexibility to adjust the signers and the sellers, the seller name accordingly, and then have one contract that is, for a typical, seller name, first and last name. So we will work with that, as we do know that this comes up more and more. But I just, I want you to understand that this is kind of out of our control, because, again, the forms are set to us, how the association wants them designed. Okay.
Thanks, Mike. Question 4, which I'm going to take this one. How do you add a listing broker so a manager's name appears in the appropriate signature line, i.e., order for manager to receive? Their email must be in the email line, but then how is the listing identified or saved as contact? This is a training issue. When I went out to train most of your officers, do follow-up training, it's all in the agent contact form where the agent fills out their contact form up front. The broker of record for every agent in our company is their office manager. And so that's the important person to be there. We are not recommending that the manager be set up to digitally sign a listing agreement because it's only required for MLS purposes. The listing agreement is bound when a listing agent and a seller signs that agreement. Again, the manager's signature is only for MLS. So I would instruct your agents not to add the manager as a signing partner in a listing agreement, and make sure your agent's contact information is correct, that lists the broker of record as the office manager, and then on, say, the Garden State MLS agreement, it will put the manager's name in the bottom left where the manager's name should go. All right, next question. I'm going to turn this one to Mike. If an agent saves a transaction as blank listing docs and uses templates, will the template docs update in the saved transaction?
Thank you. So this is really usability. So templates are to be utilized with transactions only. Okay. So you don't want to ever, if you have a blank listing document here, like a blank listing template here, you don't want to go into that template and then add in property information. The process for this is to go to the transaction screen, click new, in the new listing, and then select your blank listing docs, okay, from your apply template option, okay, or they can auto apply it and then it builds upon whatever the company is auto applying. So that would be the use case. So just making sure your agents are not creating templates and then converting those per se templates into a transaction. That's limited functionality. It doesn't work as a transaction. You're missing tabs. So use templates with transactions.
Great. Hey, Mike, we have a question that came in during that. It says here, I would like to email an agent with a question from within zip forms. It seems you can't do it without having to attach something. Is it possible to email with no attachment?
Mm-hmm. So in this case scenario, we're really not encouraging that we are an email service. So if you're looking to email someone without any attachments or just a question, the best practice is to do it directly from your email. Because what's going to happen is the communication is going to go back to your email anyway. So then you're going back and forth within your Gmail or your company email. So Zipform is not an email service to where you're going to see the communication within the history tab. But after, if you started the email thread and you want to forward that into Zipform for your, keep it as a record, you can do that. That's where the email to transaction comes into play. Okay. So hopefully that answers your question. So you're right. We don't allow to send anything out without an attachment because, we're assuming that whatever you're sending out of Zipform, you want to communicate or go over on a contract. So that's
Great.
Starting just thresh. Yep.
Okay, the next question came in advance. It said, when sending out for e-signature, is that a two-step process? One of my agents called a helpline and advised they had to go into the history to make sure all the signees were checked off. True or false, and what's the process?
Mm-hmm.
That's for my
So we'll quickly go through that. So the signing process, we actually reduced a lot of steps. So if you go through a signing, you're clicking sign, you go ahead and create a new packet. We've actually now automated the ability for the documents to come up here. So if I just go ahead and click on the addendum, that's automated now. So the signature packet will also be pre-named. Click on next. Now your parties will actually automatically come up as well. So we don't actually require any additional steps for this process. So just making sure that the agents select their parties and add them in accordingly. That's really all they have to do. Okay. So hopefully we've made this process a lot easier, reduced a lot of clicks, and made it a lot more streamlined.
Mike, a new question came in from Rumson. If we type a note and save it, does the agent receive a notification? I assume that was in that approval process you showed before.
If you are doing it on the document, so if I'm going to approve a document right on, let me go to my admin here. If I put a note here, then yes, the agent is emailed a notification as well, and about what you've commented on that document. So you're talking on, let me make sure. So she's saying it's not on the document. Are you referring to just your note section here?
She said not on a document.
Are we in note section?
Note section,
okay.
Yes.
All right. I don't believe they are notified, but I can ask the product manager about this case scenario. Okay. So let's investigate this.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. This next one's for Mike again. How can a user simply print a form without having to create a transaction? Example, an agent wants to bring a CIS form, Consumer Information Statement form, with them when they first meet with their new client.
Easy. So all they have to do is either from the dashboard, they have the view form option, or from here on the transactional page, they have view forms. They click on that, it opens up the forms, and all they have to do is click on the drop down. There's a menu drop down on the form. They can print a sample form or a blank form and then just take it on their way. It does not require you to save that transaction. It allows you to quickly print it and be done.
That was easy. Okay, next question. When a listing sells, do you create a new transaction for the sale or just add the listing sold docs within the listing required docs? This can be visually confusing. If the sales side of the listing falls through, how do we terminate the sale within the listing? So I'm going to take that one, and then Mike can add any other comments if I miss. But if we are on the listing side, representing the seller, and then a transaction comes in on that, all we do is we apply another template, called the sale, residential sale, seller side. We add that template to the existing listing template, and that will give you the additional placeholders you need to add in the sales contract and the other required documents. So you build on the transaction. You don't have to start over like we did under our former transaction management platform. If a sales side falls through under that question, how do we terminate the sale within the listing? My recommendation is then if the sale falls through, just set up a new folder within your transaction and just label it, prior sale or DFT, deal fell through, and just put your docs in there, and then just go back and reopen and continue to work with your existing template that's been pre-assigned. Mike, anything else? Go ahead. Who has a question on that?
Janet, no, I have a comment. What I do with the required, in that situation, I rename the required docs folder. One says required listing docs, and the other one says required sale docs.
Right, so I make sure everybody heard her. She's talking to the computer. She said she renames the required docs, required listing docs, or required sale docs so that they're separated.
Right.
Thanks, Janet. Yep.
And if that does fall through, I put the letters DFT at the end. So that,
and you put DFT in the end. Thank you.
Right.
Great. All right, next question. Can the notification be set up so that the admin or manager is notified when a listing has expired or if a transaction has expired because it's past the closing date? We'll give that to Mike.
Yep, that's great. We don't have it automatically sending you notifications because of the fact that we give you access to the data already within the application. So on your dashboard, when you're going there, you have new listings, closed transactions, and we also offer the expired transactions as well. So expired is anything inside the application. So when you open the report, anything inside the application that's in the status of active but beyond the closing date. So that's the one report you're looking for. Okay, and you can change date ranges on this and run different reports, agent, transaction name, all the important information you would need to know. And then the other one is fell through. Again, if you open that report, you see the agent and the transaction name. Do keep in mind that the fell through option is a status change. So you would require an agent would need to know to change that status of a transaction to fell through, okay? And then that will go ahead and put it on that report for you.
Thanks, Mike. Mike has one more coming up. Is there a way to eliminate approval of documents and just have transactions to approve?
Yes. So this is something Steve can control at your office. I mean, it's something you might want to communicate with him on and how you want your office set up. But under the admin for him, he has the ability to turn off the document approval for your office. Okay, then you would be only working on transaction approval. But keep in mind, in doing this, you're going to lose a key factor with automation on when an agent fills a required placeholder. It is possible. Talk to Steve, based on how you want to run your office, however works best for you, but that is something you can work with.
Thanks, Mike.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the last question we got in advance, and then hopefully others will have questions either by phone, web, or by chat. Is there a way to share documents in-house so the listing agent can have the seller's initials auto-populate to the purchase contract without having to drag and drop each signature initial area? The answer is absolutely yes. So on an in-house transaction, I think this came from Hillsborough, the only way to do it without having to drag and drop is to create a new signing packet. And so if you're in negotiations with a buyer on an in-house transaction and you come to an agreement, at that point, the buyer's agent who's working with the buyer can do a new signing session, have the buyer sign new docs, and have the seller sign all in one session, and that would avoid having to take a previously signed contract that was just signed by the buyer and then have to drag and drop all the initials and signature boxes. Remember, once a contract is signed by either party, you can't alter it, and that's why there's no way for Zip to know that where the other party's signatures would go unless it was done from the start of the transaction. So, absolutely yes, it's available. And I recommend that on your in-house transactions, when you're working with other people within your offices, that if there's a counter and you go back and forth, tell the buyer's agent on the last one, say, listen, all right, we're going to agree. Let's just have everybody sign at one time. And I think that's the best way to streamline it. Anybody?
Yeah.
I'm here. Does someone have a question? I heard some background noise there. Okay. Marianne, anything we missed that you feel from your office you'd like to share?
I think you covered just about everything. I think this new automation process is going to be great. So I'm anxious to see how that works because as soon as they upload something, we'll know. And I think that you covered just about everything. I mean, I think the main thing is really constantly reminding, it's a constant reminder with the agents. And like I said, I think that the running the hot sheets every day is what really helps to keep me kind of organized. But I think you covered everything, just about.
Great. Let's give a round of applause for Marianne. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Morristown just chatted in a question. Says, some agents in our office are just not embracing the tasks feature. Is there a way to disable the feature so they can avoid the notifications as to when tasks are due? Before I turn this over to Mike, let me share with you, Helen and Peter, that as a company, we're going in the opposite direction, meaning we are about to launch a much more detailed checklist and to-do list. We've been working with Annette DeSico, learning and development. We've been having an agent in our company who is very advanced, using Zip, who's been testing a couple new templates that we're working on. And one of our goals is to align what Annette teaches in class, in the onboarding process, but more importantly in the listing and the selling portion of all the things an agent needs to do to bring a transaction from listing to closing into a more to-do list and a checklist to give our agents a better guide as far as what to do, from step one, step two, and all the way through a transaction. Now, Mike, the agents, let me turn to you. Notifications on the agent level. Do agents also have the ability to turn off notifications, or are they locked in based on our notifications?
An agent can adjust what types of notifications they want to receive. So they have an ability to do that. But I will state that your task notifications are mainly due right now to document due dates, which, placeholders and document due dates it does create a task. And with the new automation, with it automatically changing statuses, that's going to help reduce your tasks not started. Okay, so you'll see now that it's actually going to be taking that away and automating that process. So hopefully those numbers start to be corrected and become more accurate.
Thanks, Mike. Metuchen asked, will there be a webinar on these changes and automation changes for agents? Is it needed, or is it just teaching agents to fill out placeholders? Mike, you want to address that, and or anybody else on the call?
Yeah, it's really, we're more than happy to accommodate additional training. We can work with our training department on that front. If you want to just do a short webinar to showcase, again, agents to fill these placeholders. So we're more than happy to accommodate anything you may need. I think it's a simple process, but I'll leave that to, discretion of your company. You let me know what you think will be best.
Thanks, Mike.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else have any other questions? Please jump in now, by phone, by computer, or by chat.
Steve, I have a question.
Go ahead. This sounds like Janet in Livingston. Go ahead. Yep.
You are correct. Okay, question. When a file is closed, the sale's gone through, we've gotten our checks, and it's marked closed by the manager. I have agents who will then, the property is going to be flipped. So now this address is going to pop up again. And when you type in that address, I have sometimes 2, 3, 4 files with this same address. Is there any way visually that when you look at a file, that's the closed or the done one? Because they're all just these dark gray folders with the same address.
All right, so just want to make sure everybody heard Janet's question, that when a transaction a file is closed, is there, and then people, let's say it's a flip transaction, or there's going to be another transaction after that. Is there any way to differentiate the former closed file with the new one, the new open file? Because when someone goes in and searches for a prior file or puts in an address, all the files at that address come up. Mike?
Yes, absolutely. And this is really just setting your filters within your own account when you log in. So here you have the filter statuses. So if you only want to see active and pending transactions, then you go ahead and save that filter, okay? Then that will only show you when you search active and pending. Then if you want to search for your closed transactions, unselect active and pending and just choose closed, then it'll only show you the closed transactions. Because you'll see here that the transaction status does state closed as long as you're either in your list view option like I am now.
Thank you.
Thanks,
You're
Mike.
welcome.
Who else? Anybody else has some questions?
I do.
Go ahead.
Hi, it's Julie. I had
Julie.
I had two agents. They shared a rental, and they each put in their own transaction for the property. And I put the most recent information in the most recent folder, and then my agent that had the other folder that was a little bit older just asked me to move all of the documents over to the new one and erase the other one. Does this make any sense to you? Because the only way I can think to do that is print everything out and rescan it in again, right? I mean, there's no way to consolidate until you guys have that in place where the agents can invite each other to a transaction, correct?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Let me bring that up to our product manager. I will do some testing behind after the call to kind of see what other ways we can do to make that easier. Now, are you only concerned on the signed documents? Because ZFX files we would not move, but any PDF, Word, Excel, pictures, anything like that, we can.
Yeah, they're scattered between the two transactions. So what I did, because I got the closing check and everything, so what I did was I scanned all of the new information into the newer transaction, which is and then the older transaction I left as it is until I went over it with you at the webinar, whether I need to just print everything out myself and rescan it in myself, or if there's a way to consolidate the two transactions together, because there's a lot of paperwork in each one. So I don't know what I can weed out and what I can't. And, that way they don't get confused when they go into Zip and they're like, why isn't this one in this folder? You know what I mean? Like it's,
I have a question.
Yeah.
Could you just email the forms that you need to yourself, say, and then bring them into the other transaction?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Is there I can just email them from Zip to myself and then just put them in without having to print them? Is there a way? I'm sorry, I'm new, so this is all very new to me. So is there a way that I can just do that right from Zip? I can just email them to myself?
Yeah, I do it.
Okay, and then I can close. And then I can close out the other transaction, or do I have to clear it? Or that's my question. What do I do with the other transaction?
Let me address that, please, because that's a legal issue. Also, I see on chat line, West Essex says you can save to your desktop and then upload them as well. So, you have many ways. So before I answer about the old file, Mike, anything else on this one question? And I want to address that because that's important for everybody to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. You could try utilizing the email to transaction. So when you take the transaction that you want to put the documents in, take the email address associated with it, and then when you go to email out, just choose your documents and then choose to enter that email address.
Oh, great. Okay.
Now, thank you. Let me go back to answer the question about what do I do with an old file. Any file that was a real file, that's not a test file. And unfortunately, we don't want to see, of course, two files for the same transaction. I know it was done, but in the future, maybe that's something in the next meeting to coach your agents about doing that. However, I still want you to close out the file that maybe is not complete and put a note in there, because we are required to preserve all documents for the required 7 years. And, if we miss something inadvertently, it could have been that one file. If it comes back, that one document that could be missing that could bite us where. So I would like to see the only transactions that anybody on this call, any OA or manager, ever delete is a mistake, something that was put in, or if you have a new agent that wants to learn how to do a zip forms, I would like to see maybe just put the word test in the address line, so when they're done working with learning the system, they can then go to the OA or the manager and say, could you delete these test files? And then you know which ones to take out.
Okay, thank you.
Rumson just wants to a follow-up, Mike, again, just how did we get those files from the wrong location to the right location?
Yep. So one of the items I recommended was to go into the transaction in which you want the documents to go into. Okay. So this is your ultimate end place. Take the email docs to transaction, copy this email address, then go into the transaction in which you're taking the documents from, click on email, and then choose those documents, and then paste the new email address and just send it through. That should put all the attachments into that transaction as a PDF.
Thanks, Mike. Yep. Anybody else? We're just approaching an hour. I think we had some great conversation. Last chance while we have Mike and Marianne, our two ZIP experts, on the line for any other questions. All right, seeing none, let me let everybody know that this session has been recorded. I will provide the link as a post follow-up to today's webinar. I would like to thank everyone in advance, everybody who sent in questions in advance, and everybody for participating today. Mike Zitko, thanks for your preparation, and our own Marianne Bernowski, thank you so much for your participation and sharing your thoughts. Have a great day. We'll keep everybody posted, and I'll send up a follow-up after the webinar. Have a good day.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.